Hello there, and thanks for joining us in Project Justice this week. I am Utabo Moran. Another week, another setback in the anti-corruption war. Last week's news of the acquittal and discharge of Senate President Bukola Saraki by the Code of Conduct Tribunal is the latest in high-profile cases that began with a lot of intensity and verve, but has collapsed helplessly. That wasn't the only one. The former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Goste Rubebe, same last week, had his sentence by the Code of Conduct Tribunal set aside by the Court of Appeal. Now, add those two to an earlier decision of the FCT High Court discharging and acquitting Justice Adeni Ademola of the Federal High Court on corruption charges, then the alarm bells should be chiming quite loudly enough for a reappraisal of the anti-corruption strategy of the federal government. Now, the anti-corruption strategists have their usual suspects for the bungling of these cases, these high-profile cases. And those suspects, of course, or that suspect, is the judiciary itself. Here, the Presidential Advisory Committee Chairman, Professor Issei Sage.
Take the case of judges and other judicial officers currently facing trial for gross corruption before other judges, their professional mates. I do not know if Nigeria has yet got to the stage in which a judge would be able to jail another judge as required by the law without feeling a tinge of esprit de corps. Throw into this mix the nature of the presidential system we pretend to run. Can the presidency really fight and win anti-corruption war without the cooperation of the legislature and the judiciary? Certainly without the judiciary, no war can be won. But in order to restore the authority, power, and dignity of the judiciary, we must go through the extraordinarily painful process of punishing those who have brought shame and obloquy to this sacred institution. Judges must be prepared to send their guilty former colleagues to prison. Otherwise, we'll be creating a species of human beings who can be corrupt, who can be rotten, who can bring down the whole system and yet not be touched. Also, the public servants, politicians who conspire to bribe and corrupt our judges deserve especially harsh punishment. The worst culprits in this sad and sorry state of affairs are the lawyers, mainly senior advocates, as I've already said, who shamelessly approach judges and introduce them into this demeaning and shameful culture. These senior advocates deserve the harshest punishment of all. The EFCC and the police must monitor and investigate the activities of lawyers who receive a share of the proceeds of crime as their fees, because that's what's happening now. You steal 20 billion, senior advocate defends you, collects 2 billion as his own share. So he has an interest in your being corrupt and in sustaining corruption in the country forever.
Well, last week, the Special Assistant to the President on Prosecution, Okoye Obonobla, echoed the same sentiment.
I will agree with that statement in total.
But you have just said that the judiciary, especially the appellate courts, have been doing well.
It is not in all cases. I said we still have some judges who are still used to the old way of doing things, who do not want to attune themselves to the current trend or the reality.
As promised, we now bring you the second part of that interview with the presidential aide. It begins with the decision by the National Judicial Council to recall some judicial officers who were asked to step down on allegations of corruption. The NJC seem not to be very happy with you. The NJC.
Why would they be happy? I'm doing my work.
The NJC says that.
I'm doing my work.
The NJC says that its decision to recall the judges was based on principles of rule of law and fairness.
Which principles are we talking about? A judge who was arraigned, docked, and tried. That alone calls into question his credibility and integrity, and the very foundation of the judicial system. So we should not begin to talk about technicalities of the law, to pull rules over the heights of Nigeria. In a decent society, in the common law tradition, where we borrowed our tradition from our legal tradition from, if a judge is under a criminal investigation, even if he has not been charged to court and acquitted, that alone is enough for him to leave the bench.
What does?
Yes, because, let me finish. The whole judicial system is founded on the principles of confidence. Confidence by members of the public. Confidence on a judge by lawyers who appear before a judge. So a judge whose character, credibility, has been called into question by the mere fact that he put himself in a situation leading to his arrest and trial, that is enough for him to leave the bench. Yes. So on that principle, how can the NJC say that what they did was founded on the rule of law? And this matter is on appeal. They are trying to distort facts to give the impression that there was no appeal. I will make available documents on my table to show you that the ruling of Justice Jude Okeke of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, was delivered on the 5th of April, 2017. The office of the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation filed a notice of appeal against that ruling on the 7th April 2017. And on the 6th of June 2017, we filed additional grounds of appeal because we are entitled to file additional grounds of appeal within the 90 days allowed us. And we did that. I also have a letter, a notice, dated 6th of June 2017 from the registry of the FCT High Court, inviting us to attend court on the 14th of June 2017 for settlement of records. So, and the settlement of records is the duty of the registry of the High Court to settle records. And where the registry fails to settle records, then the appellant can settle records. Even the respondents can settle records. So this appeal is pending. So what is the haste? What is the hurry of the NJC to clear this judge to go and sit?
Did you attend the invitation of the registry for settlement of records?
They gave the impression that they invited us on the 7th of April.
And you failed to attend?
It's a lie. I challenged Mr. Soji. Oh yeah. Listen. You ask me a question and let me answer. Don't cut me off.
No, go ahead. I'm not cutting you off. Yes, my point was, it wasn't Soji Oye's state.
No,
Soji Oye signed the statement, but yes, it was a decision taken by the agency.
NJC is not a court of appeal. I was even surprised that they were pronouncing on the validity of a notice of appeal that of a case that has not been heard. Why should NJC, a body of eminent jurists, make a categorical pronouncement, not forgetting the fact that this appeal has not been heard, that this appeal can move from the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court, and they were making a categorical statement that the notice of appeal is invalid. So I was very surprised. But that statement was made by him. And I want to answer that statement. That statement is not correct. There was no time we got notices of invitation on, I think it's the 7th and 14th of April 2017. It's not true. It's not correct. The notice that were served on us was the one issued on the 6th of June 2017. So I challenge him to present evidence or what we call proof of service. That's what we use in law.
Mr. Obla, let me take you back to your initial statement which you said. You said that under normal climes, that somebody of the status of a judge who has put himself in that situation to be arrested and charged to court, even if discharged and acquitted, should have the decency not to even go back to the bench. But what kind of judicial system do we operate? Because a lot of people would say we operate, just a second, sir, that we operate an accusatorial system and not an inquisitorial system.
I agree.
And there's always a presumption of innocence.
An exception.
It's a constitution that says presumption of innocence, sir.
Let me come. To every general rule, there's an exception.
What is the implication of discharge and acquittal
in
law?
We are talking about a judge. A judge must be above board. A judge must be above suspicion. That's what we are talking about. We are not talking about legalism. We are talking about integrity. We are talking about the foundation of justice. So you want a judge who has been accused of collecting bribe to go and sit because he was merely acquitted by the court. It is wrong. And the NJC ought to know this.
Mr. Obla, if you are wrongly accused,
that is why.
If you have been accused,
the judges have rules of professional conduct, and they even in those rules they say, look, don't socialize, don't accept gifts from anybody, don't attend wedding parties, be aware of the company you keep. Understand? It is because they are anybody who does not want to subject himself to that should not accept to be appointed a judge. If you accept to be appointed a judge, you have accepted that until you leave the bench, you will live like a monk.
Mr. I understand. I get where you're going at, but my question is, if you were in that position, you were charged to court. Just a minute, sir. You were charged to court.
Yes.
And your discharge and acquittal, in effect, means that you've been proven of innocence of the offenses or the allegations against you. Would you terminate your career, your lifelong cherished career, over somebody who wrongly accused you and you've now been discharged and acquitted by the court? Is that fair?
I will.
Is that fair to the principles of justice?
On personal principle and conviction, I will leave because my character has been called into question. And look, because we are talking of justice, we are not talking about law.
Is the burden now not going to go or should shift to the prosecution and people who are alleged? Because you said initially, any who allege must prove. Those who allege, should they not be the one now to do the needful to clear somebody who has been wrongly accused, charged to court and discharged and acquitted to clear his innocence?
What I expect NJC to do if they want to clean up the judiciary, which is in their interest and is in the interest of Nigerians, to clean up, we have to clean up our judiciary because that is the foundation of society.
My question then remains, is that fair? To leave the bench, even after a court has said you have been discharged and acquitted and proven innocent?
It's a variable concept. But I'm saying that what was the law I was taught at the law school is that a judge should be above suspicion.
Based on what you're saying now, a lot of people would argue then it would have been good to have the judiciary using its internal mechanisms present the evidence to the NJC to have these judges dismissed and derobed. Then the government can properly deal with them.
This government did something I will call revolutionary, and Nigerians are dazed, surprised, and curious. For the first time in the history of this country, judges were arrested. Before now, the impression was that judges are above the law or judges have immunity. On the contrary, judges do not have immunity. I'll go back to our neighboring Ghana. You remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago, judges were arrested in a sting operation and they were charged and they were all dismissed. Just last week in the United States, a judge was arrested, you know what, not even for collecting bribe, drunk driving. And that judge was handcuffed. She was handcuffed in the US. That is the bastion.
I've seen a standard which you have set.
Yes.
The standard in those cases was that these persons were caught in the act. They were hard evidence to nail this person. So it was difficult for them to give excuses about it.
There is nothing stopping law enforcement agencies. It's in the law. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act has provisions that if Utibe comes under the suspicion of commission of a crime, the law enforcement agencies have the right to come to your house, conduct a search. Even if you are walking on the road and they see you and they suspect that you have committed a crime, they have the right to stop you, arrest you, take you to their station and interrogate you.
If I'm going by what you say, that it would be, for matter of honesty and decency, proper thing would be for a judge to step down in that situation, then are we not going to find ourselves in a situation where the government can just take a raid on anybody who is a judicial officer, charge you to court, and expect you to step down because you've been charged to court?
How many judges do we have in Nigeria? We have 36 states. Let me give an example with my own state, Cross River State, where I come from. We have over 20 judges. Akwa Ibom, where you came from, where you come from, I believe Akwa Ibom has about 18 or so judges. Lagos State has over 60-something judges. Kano. The federal government do not arrest all the judges in the 36 states. Even the Federal High Court has over 100 and something judges. The Supreme Court has over 15 judges. The Court of Appeal has over 80 judges. The federal government do not go to the homes of all the judges in Nigeria. So the federal government is not on a witch hunt, or the federal government do not set out to ruin judges' career. There must be a reason that government went to the homes of those judges that were arrested. And please, you don't push me to going into areas that I shouldn't go into, because you are pushing me. We still need our judiciary, and we have to try and maintain the integrity of the judiciary, because if the judiciary collapses, that will be the next step to the disintegration of society. So we have to be very careful. Don't push government to release or make public some of the findings.
Those findings should be a matter of the court.
That's what Sergey was talking about, justice and law.
Those matters should be
when
about.
When it comes to integrity of the judiciary, please, we should leave out legalism and look at justice and the rules of professional conduct of judges.
Should we also leave out the rule of law?
Rules of professional conduct is also rule of law. Justice is also rule of law.
Okay, there was another Justice Iyan Okoro, one of those of the Supreme Court, whose home was raided and he was arrested as well, and some of the ones which the NJC ordered that they should resume duty. Those ones that were not charged to court. My question is, those ones that were not charged to court, apart from Justice Demola, who was charged to court, and you said the appeal process had commenced. Those ones that were not charged to court at all, do you have a problem for them resuming duties as well?
Let me also give you an information. Maybe you don't have access to that information. 2 of the justices who were asked to resume, 2 of them were charged to court last Friday by the EFCC.
That's coming after the Supreme Court, after the NJC gave the directive.
That is why we are saying that decision was rather rash or made in a hurry.
Was it not a belated decision also that the prosecution took? Because some people would say, just a minute, sir, some people would say that these persons were arrested over 6 months ago, and within 6 months, a lot of people would expect, being a sting operation like some people thought, that evidence would have been gathered enough to take them to court. 6 months after, it never happened.
Look, there is no time bad. So you don't expect government to, in a hurry, investigate these matters haphazardly, because it involves the integrity of the judicial system of the country.
But a lot of people would expect that to happen, because we've also seen cases of people who are not judges, persons who are seen to have belonged to, the other political party who was in government before, who were expeditiously investigated and expeditiously charged. You mentioned the case of Olisa Metu, whose trial has commenced very diligently, is ongoing before the trial court. One would expect that kind of dispatch in dealing with cases as sensitive as those involving judicial officers.
These judges' cases should be looked at from the peculiar circumstances of those cases. Olisa Metu's case is peculiar. Other cases are peculiar. Other cases are different. The circumstances are different. I have been mentioning, and you are not seeing that point, that the foundation of every judicial system is integrity. The foundation of every country is the rule of law. We must make sure that people, both within Nigeria and the international community, have confidence in our judicial system.
Mr. Obla, would you also agree, or would you accept that in the course of taking these very bold steps against these judicial officers, there were mistakes along the way?
Don't you make mistakes? You as Utibe, as a person.
So, yeah, I agree. I raised that question because still going by what you said, that if mistakes were made, for instance, in the arrest of a Justice Dingba, who had since resumed duties, and the government really has not had issues with him resuming duties because perhaps it has self-admitted that it made a mistake in that case. Is it not also possible that the government may have made a mistake in the Justice Ademola case, who has now been freed and discharged?
I will not accept that. Look,
by the court.
I have mentioned to you that we are surprised that even the NJC will give him a clean bill of health.
But the NJC claims it has dealt with all the petitions against him.
Let me mention to you. The petition is dated 14th of July 2016, and it was received in the registry of the Supreme Court on this. Oh no, it's dated 14th of July 2016, and it was received on the 26th. And that is a very serious. The allegation that was made in that petition by a group of people from PDP in Anambra State. They call themselves Committee of PDP Members Elects. They wrote that petition about Justice Ademola, complaining that he gave two conflicting judgments. He made two different pronouncements. What he read in court was different from what was contained in the judgment. That petition has not been investigated. So what we are saying, nobody is out to victimize anybody or to wound anybody. It is the interest of the judiciary, the interest of the executive, the interest of society that we should have a judicial system that people have confidence in. As we used to have, our judiciary used to be one of the best in the Commonwealth. Our law reports of judgments of the Supreme Court used to be cited in other countries because other countries had confidence in our judicial system because of the judges who were, manning these courts, because these judges had integrity. We used to think that Supreme Court justices were gods. During the days of Oputa, Kayode Shaw, Andrew Obaseke, Mohammed Bello, we never heard any scandal or any story of a Supreme Court justice or even the High Court. I was called to the bar about 27 years ago. I met judges in Calabar where I was practicing. And they used to carry themselves as gods. We used to defer to them because of their integrity. Understand? Because of their courage. Because of the way they dispense justice. They don't go and hold meetings with third parties over cases that they are presiding over. It's a misconduct. Even to admit a litigant or a politician into your home to discuss a case that is pending in the Supreme Court. One of them confessed in a letter to the former Chief Justice of Nigeria that he had meetings with some politicians to discuss a matter that was, before the Supreme Court. That alone is a misconduct.
He said the politician came to meet him to ask him to subvert justice. That's what he said. Has a prosecution also done investigation on some of these politicians?
If I am a judge, I will never open my door to a politician to the extent that he will come to discuss a pending matter. I will walk that politician away and say, don't come to my house, or I will ask my police orderly, arrest this man.
Isn't that what he said he did?
No! Why was the politician not arrested?
It's left for the government to arrest the politician.
No, it's not left for the government. It's left for that judge on that day to ensure that those politicians that came to his house to influence him are arrested. And he did not tell Nigerians. If I'm a judge, I will call a press conference and also tell Nigerians on the day of the incident.
Mr. Obla, before you leave this issue, I asked about Justice Iyan Okoro of the Supreme Court. No, you haven't specifically. In general terms, in specific terms, is he among those that perhaps mistakes were made over, or do you have issues with the order for him to?
He is under investigation, and he will be arraigned before the Code of Conduct. He's under investigation, and as long as he's under investigation, he should excuse himself from sitting.
All right. A lot of people are also concerned about leaving this realm of the judges and judicial officers who are under the radar. Some of the high-profile investigations that is ongoing. People are also expecting that the government that professes to fight corruption should also be expeditious and open in some of these investigations. One that a lot of people are expecting is the report on the SGF and the former DG of the NIA. What is holding that report back, based on your privileged position as an essay to the president on prosecution?
Go and ask the acting president. He's the chairman, and I will not want to speak on that issue because I'm not the chairman. The chairman of that committee is the acting president.
But are you worried that it's taking too long?
Why am I? I shouldn't be worried. I shouldn't be worried about everything.
But you should be worried about prosecuting those who have run foul of the law.
Why not?
Isn't that why we should be anticipating and expectant of the report?
I have told you, I have given you an answer. The acting president was the chairman of the committee. You better ask him that question.
Mr. Bonobla, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the presidential aide and prosecution says the government has entered a full appeal against the judgment discharging Justice Adeniyi. The appeal has yet to be listed for hearing. Stay with us for any subsequent development on this one and many others. And that's Project Justice for this week. Please remember to follow us on our Twitter handle at ProJusticeLive. Also like us on Facebook and view us also on YouTube. On behalf of the entire production crew, I am Otubo Moran. Thanks for staying with us. See you next week.